Hi, I'm Jesse Miles, and I want to help you create the freedom to pursue your own great adventure and live life your way. Today I wanted to talk about three of my favorite financial gurus: Robert Kiyosaki, Sorelle Amore, and Andre Jikh. So after watching many hours of content, I started to realize that there were some things they all had in common. There were some similarities in each of their lives. And the more I looked at it, the more I realized that it boiled down to three main steps to financial independence.
Go on an adventure, go on an adventure, go on.
Let's start with Robert.
My rich dad was my best friend's father. My poor dad was an academic, straight A student. I wasn't. I was a D, F, and C student on a good day. But my rich dad never finished school. So he had a completely different point of view. It's not right or wrong, but rich dad was an entrepreneur, and poor dad was a school teacher, head of education, PhD, Stanford, University of Chicago North, all the credentials for academics. So at the age of 9 in Hilo, Hawaii, my rich dad started teaching me, because I asked the question of my teacher, my 4th grade teacher, said, "What did we learn about money?" I said, "Well, we don't teach you about money." And I thought that was really stupid. Why go to school, get a job, but know nothing about money?
Robert Kiyosaki, for anyone who's familiar with him, he wrote the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And Rich Dad, Poor Dad is the #1 personal finance book of the last 25 years. So Robert's story is inspirational, and he was revolutionary in cracking open the gates of financial knowledge. He kind of exposed what the rich teach their children that the poor never learn. So Robert's done a lot for us. We're going to come back to him, but first I want to introduce our next creator, and that is Sorelle Amore. Sorelle Amore is an Australian blogger and influencer. She makes videos about photography and personal finance and business. She's very passionate about finance, and she has a lot of great insight.
Changes you into an entrepreneurial mindset, whereas most people, they fall into the employee mindset. Now, if you've been an employee for a really long time and you've grown accustomed to a regular paycheck, breaking this is so much harder than if you've never really had the comforts for that long. I had the comforts for 2 years, and after a while, you do become very comfortable. So not putting yourself in a situation where you receive regular income in order to trade your time, and instead you rely on your skill set and you being able to deliver a product or service in exchange for cash, irregular cash. This is when you unlock something in your mind that isn't going to make you panic whenever there is no income. You just realize you need to find a different strategy to make things work.
And finally, we have Andre Jikh. Andre Jikh is a wacky, eccentric character who has a channel called The Magic of Finance. Andre is a magician, and he likes to work his magic tricks into his finance channel. I wish I could do a few. It definitely makes it more visually appealing and grabbing.
And like clockwork, the checks just continue to get a little bit bigger, and then a little bit bigger, and then, you guessed it, a little bit bigger.
See what I mean? That's a pretty cool trick. So Andre had a different sort of journey than Robert and Sorelle. Robert and Sorelle are what I would consider serial entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs to the core that really can't handle working for anyone else. Andre seems like he'd be a lot more cooperative in a job. Andre was a lead videographer in Vegas for 5 to 7 years, and he used that money to invest. And he invested by being a financial minimalist.
I have to make a lot of compromises, like living with a roommate, not going out to eat, and not buying the latest iPhones. I'm basically a financial minimalist with no social life who has hit his midlife crisis.
Highly recommend you do that. I think most people don't have the discipline for that. To never buy anything they want, never go do the things they like to do, really decrease your enjoyment and focus on maximizing your future potential.
I got myself a $600 brand new moped that's 49cc, $2 to fill up, and it gets me 50 miles to the gallon if I need to go somewhere close, and that saves so much money because people spend over $10,000 per year on transportation costs, so definitely look into saving money in this category.
So now that we've introduced all three of our examples, let's talk about what they have in common. First of all, they all had a good job when they got started, or a good business. Robert Kiyosaki started out his career as a military pilot. Following that, he became a lead tanker officer.
Because I went to school to be a tanker officer, driving ships for Standard Oil.
Now, Robert has mentioned that his salary at that time was $120K a year.
And I was very fortunate when I graduated in '69. We're the highest paid graduates in the world. My classmates were making about $120,000 to $150,000 a year. That's not much money today, but 1969, that was a lot of money.
$120K a year in the 1970s would buy you a 3 or 4 bedroom house. Today, not so much. So the first thing that Robert had going for him is he had a great job as a lead tanker officer for Standard Oil. Sorelle Amore also had a great job. She was a marketing manager, but it sounds like it wasn't the best fit for her.
But then when I was looking at the workforce and working in it, which I did for a couple of years as a marketing manager, I started just to assess it and notice how much wrong there was with it. Firstly, you have to climb a corporate ladder, probably around bosses or other colleagues that have an ego issue, and you have to first earn your place, so you might be getting bullied by them. Secondly, you have to work 8 to 9 hours a day, even though they've shown study after study that humans are actually more productive working shorter days. And then you also add commuting time to that, and then most likely you sit in a box promoting a product or service that you might not even care about. At the time, you were expected to go into the office and work from the office, but everybody had the internet, so I couldn't quite comprehend why you had to go into an office when you could just possibly work from anywhere in the world. But worst of all, I could not comprehend that someone was going to be giving me 2 to 4 weeks of holidays per year, and then on top of that, also every single day I had to ask permission basically to eat my lunch at a specific hour. I was like, excuse me, my time is the most valuable thing I have, and how on earth will I give you control over that? No.
I don't think that Sorelle was ever meant to be an employee. I think that she's doing a lot better as an entrepreneur, and that's a much better fit for her. Sorelle's going to be our entrepreneur example of owning a good business in step 1. In step 1, you need a good job or a good business. That's how you start out. For Sorelle, she started her YouTube channel and she built up an audience to where content creation was bringing in a decent amount of income. Andre, on the other hand, was an employee, and he focused on being a great employee so that he could make good money. Andre focused on developing his skill, videography.
When I was 15 years old, I was getting paid $9 an hour at the time, and I freaking loved it. I was teaching magic tricks to drunk tourists in Las Vegas. It was the coolest thing ever. And it took me several months of saving up to get to $1,500 to get the thing I really, really wanted. So I took the money and I invested it. But I didn't buy stocks like I do now. Instead, I actually bought a camera. It was the Sony HDR HC1, which was the little brother to the Sony HDR FX1, which was $3,000. At the time, I could not afford that. But they were the first cameras of their kind because they were these video cassette cameras that could record high definition videos, and they were like small consumer cameras that you could actually carry with you. And I spent the next few years perfecting it, learning how to light my videos, how to edit, how to shoot, and that took me several years. All I did was just make terrible, terrible videos.
And he talks about making $15 an hour and slowly working up to somewhere in the 20s.
I got a job at a startup company as the lead videographer, earning a massive $12 per hour, which of course, as you guys know, $24,000 a year. But after working there for my first year, I got a pay raise to $14 per hour.
Now that's not much, and that goes to prove that you can really invest at any pay scale, because he was only making $15 to $30 an hour as a lead videographer, and he was still doubling down on saving, hitting $2 to $3 grand a month.
I started saving over half of my income, investing $2,000 to $3,000 every single month. I did everything I could, and through every pay raise and through every extra hustle that I did, and I got paid more, I did not inflate my lifestyle. And at no point ever in my career did I stop and just say to myself, you know what, I deserve this car. I deserve to treat myself for all of my hard work. I gave myself none of it, and I just kept saving more and more.
And so Andre is really our prototype of how to succeed in step 2. Step 2 is save. You need to save money. Once you have a good job, you need to double down on saving. Just because you're making a lot of money at your good job doesn't mean you blow it all. It means that you still live like you're broke, still live like you're poor, and then you save all of that money. So Andre is a financial minimalist to the core. And I imagine that even now that he's making real money off of YouTube, he's still struggling to buy a decent meal. It still doesn't feel right to him.
Live with a roommate. I'm paying $450 for my rent for every month. It saves so much money. Learn how to cook at home. Don't go out to eat at restaurants every single week. Waste of money. Don't go clubbing. Don't drink. Don't smoke. And above all, don't shop at Whole Foods and buy organic, because I shop at Walmart, Smith's, and when I'm feeling really reckless and careless with my life, I'll go to the 99-cent store, because nothing is beneath me when saving money. And also I realize some of you watching, all you heard was, I live in a cardboard box, I eat ramen noodles, I've got no friends, and I like to watch paint dry for entertainment. Literally every single comment on YouTube.
Live a little, bro. Life is short.
But nothing can be further from the truth, okay? Huh, still wet.
I think it's just in him. It's in him, and that's why it worked to start with. It's not in everybody. Not everybody can just live on top ramen and watch paint dry. Robert talks about blowing his first few paychecks as a lead tanker officer.
But naturally, as young guys do, we spent every penny of it.
Yeah.
But then he started to figure it out.
I'm making all this money, I have a secure job, but what's beyond that? And that's where education comes in.
He remembered all of his rich dad's lessons, and he thought, you know what? I should be investing. I should be buying. I should be building. Step 3 is invest. You got to invest money. Sorelle invested in real estate. She took all of her money from her YouTube channel and she put it into investment properties.
And so now I stand here at the age of 32 with 11 properties, investment properties behind me. Mid last year, mid 2020, I was able to buy this house together with 43 acres of land for 500,000 Australian dollars. And now I went to the real estate and turns out this property is worth more than $1 million already. It's freaking crazy. I did nothing. I just bought at the perfect time.
Andre invested in the stock market. And for the first, 5 to 7 years of his investment career, he focused exclusively on dividend investing, blue chip stocks that pay dividends.
I've crossed over $1,000 per month in all of 2022 for dividend income. And it's interesting because if you've been following my journey since 2019, you might remember my stock portfolio when it looked like that and me when I looked like this. Back when I was eating ramen noodles. You've changed, Andre. You've changed. Now this is just something I've been trying to do since 2014 when I first started dividend investing, because I always thought, wouldn't it just be so cool if I could make $1,000 per month while I sleep?
His plan was to retire on dividends.
All in all, in 2015, I made $2,657 in dividend income for the whole year.
And dividends are a very small percentage of the stock price. You really need hundreds of thousands of dollars in dividend stocks for the dividend payment to really be enough to live off of. He decided, you know what, I'm gonna get to 100 or 200 grand in dividend stocks and I'm gonna live off that money so I can focus on my passion, magic, and finance. Kind of like me, I'm music and business and travel. So I can really relate to someone like Andre who wants to combine multiple interests into one channel. And then we have Robert, and Robert invested initially in commodities.
First, actually, was commodities. So back in 1972, I started buying gold. And it was illegal for Americans to own gold. You can imagine that. Wow. Back in 72. Today you have Bitcoin. It's different. Okay. Everything is changing so rapidly today. So I started with gold, but actually the next thing was actually oil. So I understand oil. So my wife and I don't own Standard Oil or Chevron or Exxon. We own oil wells. Again, taxes. You get no tax breaks for owning paper oil, huge tax breaks for owning real oil.
So the reason I chose these 3 finance gurus, aside from being a huge fan of all 3 of them, is that they each focused on a different form of investment. Robert focused on commodities, gold, later branching out into businesses and real estate. Sorelle focused on real estate first, and she doubled down on investment properties. Andre focused on dividend stocks first. He was a stock market guy. So we've got a commodities investor, a real estate investor, and a stock market investor. 3 different tracks, but they got there a very similar way. Now I realize that this is a very beginner finance video. To say that you need a good job, you need to save, and you need to invest, that's not rocket science. Most people get that. But by pointing out these 3 examples, you can see clearly how it played out over the course of a decade for each of them. Because while you can start investing at any pay scale, if you work a minimum wage job, there's only so much you can save. You have all of your costs, transportation, housing, food, everything. And If you're working a minimum wage job, you can really only save so much, and it's gonna take really long to save up a significant amount of money that you're able to invest. Versus if you invest in yourself, in your skills, your experience, your knowledge, you get a good job or you start a great business, either of those two, then you're on your way to saving a lot of money faster. You're on the fast track to savings.
Some months were as low as $1,500, other months were as high as $5,000, some months nothing at all. But on average, it was $2 to $2.2K every single month.
A dose of that is necessary if you're going to become financially independent ever. So saving is step 2, and saving is the key. It's not really taught how to save money. It's not really taught how to control impulse, right? So much of our economy is driven by impulse. And while it might be good for the economy if you impulse buy every day, it's certainly not good for you or your finances. And then third is invest. And while you're in the saving stages, while you're working your good job, you really need to also invest in financial education so you can make good investments.
I'm making all this money, I have a secure job, but what's beyond that? And that's where education comes in.
And the other thing I would reinvest in would be my education. So whatever I'd save at first, I would put into education to help multiply my skills to get me closer and closer to understanding the world of business.
So once you're at the investing stage, you need to already be able to use money effectively, to grow it. All three of the people I mentioned are masters at not just accumulating wealth, but keeping it and growing it. Once you get there, oh, are you a Robert route? Are you gonna go commodities? Are you a Sorelle route? You're gonna go real estate? Are you an Andre route? You're gonna go stock market? Some combination of the three? You're gonna touch crypto? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do with the money once you have it? Where are you gonna put it? It's really important. Depending on inflation, different macroeconomic factors, where you put it could be very stable or very unstable. Could explode, could sink. You just don't know unless you have financial knowledge and you have the ability to make good decisions around finance. So, to summarize, our 3 steps are good job or good business, save, and invest. It's not rocket science. I know this is a very beginner finance video, but the point is that this is achievable for anyone if they have discipline, they have impulse control, and they invest in themselves at the beginning to develop skills, knowledge, and experience that can help them get a good job or a good business. And then they seek out financial knowledge. They seek out financial education. So those are our 3 steps. Thanks for tuning in. I'm gonna keep making more videos that help people follow their passion, live life their way, and create their own great adventure. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time.
Go on an adventure.